experience I did.
Very, very
Everybody
similar.
else has the light, the tunnel, all that nonsense. I could never connect to that. So when you're telling me that you went through the exact same thing I did, oh my gosh, I just have to know you forever. Seriously, forever and ever.
Right?
Yeah.
And mine was also a drug overdose. It was an accidental drug overdose when I was 9 years old. And it's like she said, it was just blackness, but it was so peaceful. And no fear. And large and small at the same time, everything all there, all together at once. And when I finally woke up, it was my father's voice was the first thing I heard saying my name. And I woke up in the hospital, and I knew immediately what had happened and where I was, and that it was the next day and a whole day had passed. And I just had this incredible knowledge that everything had happened like clockwork for me to go through that, for everything to be in position for my life to be able to be saved, and that there is absolutely a purpose for me being here right now.
And that you're not gonna die 1 second before you're supposed to.
Yeah.
So for me, it really relieved all the fear of death.
Yeah, and like you said earlier
I
too,
went
it
on
was
to
like
do-
it showed us just enough,
Right.
just enough,
To understand that that's the goal. That's not the fear.
right?
And then I went on to be an EMT. I was a funeral director, and I didn't have any squeamish, weird, oh, it's a dead thing. I was like, oh, this is somebody's house. They don't live here anymore, but it's their house, and I'm going to respect this place and take care of it for them in their absence, kind of a deal. Yeah, it really changed. Oh my God.
Look at the synchronicities here.
Oh, it's so crazy.
And I'm a surgical technician, so I got into the medical field too.
Oh, that's cool. I just about did, and then I went seniors instead. Something about them, I just love them.
Yeah.
They're my favorite. Yeah.
It's like Cassie's grandma.
Yeah.
I remember a guy had a similar experience to yours. So the black, the darkness, and felt so nurtured in there
Yeah.
that it was just bliss, and it was all the whole thing in one, all that. I'm trying to remember who
Okay.
that guy was, but
Like mothership.
Who here is interested in an ayahuasca experience?
I've done it. I'd like to do it
You've done
again.
ayahuasca?
I've done ayahuasca.
Now that's the same as a DMT trip,
Uh-huh.
but it's supposed to last up to 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours.
Mine
So
was
it's a
about
shaman's
6. Yeah, and I did it about 4 years ago with a shaman and his partner, and the shaman had been trained in Peru, and that's what he does for his living. Is he travels the United States facilitating circles of ayahuasca ceremonies and experiences, and he's a drummer and his partner is a singer, and they take people on these journeys of ayahuasca, high quality ayahuasca that they had every month shipped up from South America from the indigenous shamans down there in the rainforest or whatnot. And it was definitely an amazing experience. One of the things I experienced from it was I had an experience of connecting with every human on the planet who happened to be in prison, in jail, and connecting to the primary cause of their circumstances, in many cases of them harming another person, hence ending up in jail, but doing so because they were projecting their own non-self-love or their own kind of self-hatred, extending their own self-judgment, self-hatred onto others, and not therefore living by the golden rule, but harming another because they're not really loving themselves. And so having therefore compassion for these people in jail around the planet, and that was one of the experiences I had on ayahuasca.
Wow. I like the way, you said that. Then, I mean, that's really what it is not having compassion for yourself, which
Or love
causes
for
people to
yourself, right.
cause harm to other people. Thank you, Dan.
Exactly.
So many of my experiences here have taught me, like everything that I have done and been through that a lot of people would perceive as, well, that's something bad, that's something you shouldn't do, that's something that can mess you up. And it's all just taught me compassion and love for everybody. 'Cause we're all human, we all do these things.
You and I should talk about that sometime. A lot of things to share.
I think we all have a lot of things to share, don't we?
Sometimes it's easier to share with some than others.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Gender has a little bit to do with that.
Yeah. So what would it take for us to move through that?
I have no idea.
Are you willing to try?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, you don't have to answer it. Until you're ready.
Look at the gato.
We've all had our laps warmed by this week, actually.
Yes.
So have you heard before other experiences, death experiences like ours?
No.
Me either.
I've always heard of people talking about the light being guided.
Stairways, tunnels.
And it was like that was not necessary.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also you can think of it as the light being inherently, light being masculine and magnetism or the darkness of the void being the feminine or the womb of creation, and so being in that in a dark void place that encompasses everything, the light and the tunnel were not necessary to
Why is it necessary for some and not for others?
maybe
That's the big question I get. Like what is it in some people that it's necessary?
probably their inner balance or mix of
Is
masculine
it
and
a
feminine
matter
energy.
of perception?
Or is it possibly, I mean, everybody's lived past lives.
Because raised
everybody's-
Catholic,
Maybe you
I-
were just shown what you needed to see.
Right, exactly.
right.
At that time.
Well, I thought about perception, but then being raised Catholic, Roman Catholic of all God.
Same here.
I'm starting with Catholics Anonymous. Seriously, recovery group for
And you
Catholics.
know what though, like you know what they say, it's not the whole Catholic religion,
No,
because there's a
it's
lot of
just the-
Catholics that are out there that are, I mean, they're blessed people and they want good things for everybody,
Right.
but they've been
Intention is
deceived.
different for some than it is for others. Just
They've
like
been
with
deceived
everything.
just like all the
Oh,
rest of us,
sure.
all of us.
Sure, and that's part of their learning experience.
So I mean, that's one of the things that we kind of like have to start being aware of what we put out there, because we have a tendency to like, oh, well, the blacks or the whites or
And
you know the
Chinese or
Russians
whatever.
or the Chinese,
Right.
and like right now with what all the wars and stuff that they want to create. I mean, that's what they do. They separate us
The
all.
Jews and the Muslims.
The Jews and the Muslims
creating
and-
duality and
Shiites and the
perspective.
Sunnis and
Don't forget the Christians.
right.
Yeah.
It's
So
all
I
the
mean,
same
and
God
it's
to me. It's funny to me that it's all, you know, Catholics hate the Lutherans hate the Baptists, blah blah blah. It's all the same God. It's the same. There's only one.
hmm
The lesson is
There
supposed to
isn't
be
like
about
30
loving
gods, and
everybody.
we can pick and choose which one is the right one, because they're all the right one. It's all the same one,
Yeah. It's all the same.
and we're all a piece of it.
Have you ever done any research into fractals? If you start looking up fractals and also the Fibonacci sequence and the fingerprint of God, because they call it the fingerprint of God, it rounds down to the ratio 1.962, and they call that the golden ratio, and it's in everything. It's in the way that our bodies grow. It's in the way that the branches spiral up trees, and you'll find it in everything. And when I started to study about the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio in fractals, you can literally, when you go outside, you see God in everything. And I mean, that was
Well, that happens anyways. Did you get that when you came back? Like colors look different,
Yes.
and
After your
like,
experience.
Yeah, there's God in absolutely
everything. Everything.
Yeah, and if it doesn't grow, it dies.
So, you know, even this whole
That
thing.
was the other reality that hit me like right away, was if it doesn't grow, it dies.
So even when we're talking about what's going on right now, the shadow government, the dark forces, ta-da, against the light forces, we're still creating a duality right there. And this is really what we're moving out of, is duality into unity consciousness, oneness. So just by us having these conversations and stuff and actually understanding, realizing, seeing the truth of everything, because our eyes is where we perceive everything.
So this thing that I witnessed is reality. It is all one. The whole thing.
All of it. And it's all you.
Everything I know, everything I've still to know, everything I'll never know is all one. Everything and everybody.
So,
Every question and every answer.
so just like you're saying, not getting trapped in the duality of let's say, fighting or being at war with the Illuminati, but rather, or just like cancer, not being at war with cancer, but in fact transmuting it with the alchemy of love and light and awareness, and transmuting cancer, transmuting darkness, not
abolishing it,
yeah,
not destroying
getting
it,
trapped
just
into the war
transforming
battle against
it.
Right, transforming it and shedding light upon it.
Well, I mean, isn't that what we're going through as a transformation? And I mean, whenever we have shifts in perceptions, I mean, we have these huge leaps into a higher consciousness through our perceptions starting to change. And I mean, it's really a battle within ourselves and everything that we perceive the outer world to be separate from us. And it's this and it's that. Maybe these things are coming into our life for a reason.
Maybe.
Because with every
I would
lesson
say
is an
definitely.
opportunity.
Maybe these things are.
I would say definitely.
Definitely.
And
Most assuredly.
Definitely, maybe.
and the seat of the perception of duality is the ego. It's the left and the right, the dual hemispheres of the brain, the dark and white, the good and evil. But it's the seat of that dualistic perception is the ego, rising above the ego, expanding one's awareness outside of the ego. Transmutes duality into unity, into oneness, and so, yeah.
Consider the fact that maybe it's God just playing.
Right.
Yeah, I've
Exactly.
given that some thought.
He's just playing with different things.
Right.
And there are millions of us, trillions, quadrillions of us things out there that he plays with.
So how many of us are how many of us are sitting on the sidelines watching everybody else playing, in a state of bliss and joy, and certain other ones are sitting on the side, and I've had conversations about this, like, well, I'm not going to play because Kelly's playing, and I don't like Kelly, so I'm not going to play house with you guys. How many kids in this world are actually going through their mind about having judgments about this and that, and they're choosing not to play?
But that's the game they're playing, is choosing not to play.
Right, then they have still no choice.
Yeah, they're already
Yeah.
playing a game they just don't acknowledge.
And what if it's just other parts of you?
That's
Like
what I mean. Yeah.
talked about. And let's say, because this brings me up to, it was about last year around 11/11, somewhere close to that time when I was going through these perception shifts. And I was actually reading A Course in Miracles at the time. And Claudia had some friends over, and they were sitting around the table, and they had book night where they would read these certain books. And they said in this book, they're saying evil is unrevealed good, is what they're saying. And if you turn evil around, it spells live. Well, at that same time, I had gotten an article about the hidden hand, and it was an insider for the Illuminati. And he said that they were actually under contract to show us who we aren't so we could choose something else. Now, from what I'm seeing, that this has been done, and it's been done for such a long time, there are people that have been lulled to sleep, other parts of self that have been lulled to sleep, that through disinformation, lack of light, lack of information. So they've been pulled into this. And so if they're having a hard time breaking out of that, that's just another part of you.
I was gonna say, weren't we all pulled into that?
We were all pulled into that.
Everybody was lulled to sleep.
But we all had different experiences. And this goes to another thing. When I would see somebody going through a certain situation in their life, and I look at them and I go, I would totally have done that differently. And now I look back on that and I say, I can't say that because
Right.
I did not walk in their shoes. I did not have their experiences. I could be doing the exact same thing that they're doing.
Right.
So everyone is exactly where they need to
Or I
be.
have at one point done the exact same thing they're doing.
Yeah.
I've been catching that one a lot too, looking at things and thinking to myself, well, I could never do that. And then going, wait, I used to do that. You know, like catching that judgment and going, whoa, stop.
And so what if, it's like, because I've seen all these different things on reincarnation, the one on YouTube about the boy that was shot down, and he had these dreams of being shot down, and he remembered all the people from his ship that he served on, and he was a little boy, and these guys were old men. And so they basically, and they have more stories coming out like that, proving about our past lives. So, I mean, who's to say what experiences people have had and where they're at and what they're actually here to learn this go around? Learn,
that all
lesson,
ties in.
opportunity. What opportunities are going to come up for them this time for their expansion and their growth?
Based on their past.
Based on their past.
Right.
Because they're all different. So imagine being able
That's
to,
so trippy.
moving into what we're moving into now, to actually find out our true history, where we actually come from, our origins. And, if we are, created or, let's say, manipulated in some way, shape, or form, our DNA and so forth, by our creators, well, if these creators are co-creators of the infinite creator, which is all one, which is all us, it's still God. So, there's this whole thing about, well, if there's extraterrestrials out there and we were created by them, then it would completely eliminate there being a God. And I don't know where that came from, but that's what I was, kind of like indoctrinated through the Catholic religion. And so that when I started to get into, exploring everything, then I started to see, Greek mythology and all these other gods, and then the God within me, the I am within me, and I'm all like going, oh, whoa, wait a minute, am I worshiping false gods? My mind would come up with these questions, and then I would have this feeling of like, am I doing wrong? Am I doing wrong? And I felt my vibration lowering, and then I would go like, no, wait a minute, it's like love. And then when I would hear certain things, you know the truth when you're hearing it. Mm-hmm. Your body speaks to you. You get chills up and down your spine, everything. And so I knew that, and then I also questioned too, if there was a God that was all loving and would throw you in burning hell, but I still love you. That confused the crap out of me. And I was all like, well, I don't want to be loved by a God that's going to be like that.
Right.
And so it made me look into other things, and since I have, and I started to learn more. I started to realize I asked for all of this. I absolutely asked for every last bit of it. And there were times in my life when I thought the world was going to end, Y2K and, these other events. And finally I got tired of it. If it's going to end, just end it. I mean, really. I'm not going to fear it, and I'm not going to worry about it anymore. And then it brought me into another era of information searching and enlightenment, and the more that I learned, the better I felt about it, and the more that I really knew that I asked for all of it.
That's like dying. I went through those things with dying and coming back. Was I in hell? It was black, completely pitch dark, couldn't see a thing. Everybody else got a light. I didn't get a light.
There was an experience of a guy who had the black experience, but he was in absolute terror.
Oh, yeah, no.
You're talking about the one who in the plane crash. It's on YouTube. You had seen it?
No, I don't think so. This was when I was a kid. I saw this one, or read it in a book. It was a book. The guy wrote a book, and he was in. It was the absolute worst thing imaginable. And the only thing that got him out, of course, was asking Jesus. Please
Right.
help me. And,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden the light appeared. He was out of the darkness, and life was good again.
Yeah.
But
I had
he
nothing
wasn't
like that,
nurtured,
but
in that position of, oh,
Yeah.
man, there's just
peace
feels
and
like-
love, and man, I don't ever
He
want
was
to
like,
be
oh
here.
my God, get me out of here. But maybe he had a lot of bad karma, because he talks about that too. He was not a good guy.
Well, you know how you
Before.
feel after you eat a good amount of food, not like a little bit too little, a little bit too much. When you eat that just proper amount of really good, and you can feel how healthy it is for you. You go to New Seasons, get that yummy sandwich, and you just feel so good. There's that element too, like you're saying, nurturing. Like I felt full and appeased and satisfied, but still, after I came back, my brain's still going, holy crap, there was no light. Did I go to hell? I was cooking cocaine after all.
And you were all in your head though, right?
I was for years.
And
For
then the
years and
question
years.
is, what do you believe about hell?
I believe that hell was not
No, no, no,
created
no.
for people.
That wasn't.
Oh, in
I
the
didn't-
moment, what did I believe about hell?
Yeah.
I believe I deserve to be there.
Yeah, because it was my third experience with the DMT experience is when I went into it, and as soon as I went into it and I crossed over, everything was the opposite of what I thought. There was no good. There was no love.
Right.
I could see, and this happened all within a matter of a few moments, and I just saw a world that was totally the opposite of everything that I hoped and dreamed of. And I was like, no, no, no. And by the time every time that I said no, it was like I felt this feeling of love just coming over me. And I heard whispers, it's all right. It's all right. And at about the third time I said no, it just all melted away. And at that point, that's when I realized it's all perception. Everything is perception. Just like we label good, bad, evil.
So where did the ugly, evil, nasty come from? Was that just you projecting that?
Well, I had an intention before I did that DMT trip, and it was for me to actually release and forgive and let go everything. Truly let go. Yeah, and so when I went into it, honestly, even though I had the beings around me, which every time I've done a DMT experience, you just have this warm feeling of love, that second or two that I experienced the opposite of everything that I ever thought scared the crap out of me. Because I was like, no, it can't be. It can't be. And my whole reality of everything, it just completely took it all away, and it was totally the opposite. And I was like, no, no. And then it was like, it melted away. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then my mind started thinking, it's all perception. It's all perception. It's all perception. And I came out of that experience, and I didn't have a DMT trip for quite a while after that. And the last one that I had, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
So
But
what exactly is DMT?
DMT is dimethyltryptamine.
And where do you get it?
Your body produces it every time.
I want to see that too. All that stuff fall off. That'd be awesome.
It actually grows in a lot of things, and that you can extract it out of
What,
it.
you just like eat the grass?
Eat the We're DMT vegans. You'll see us grazing out in the yard occasionally. What are you doing today? We're grazing. This is organic grass, no chemicals.
Anyway, so is it something you take? Is it something in your food? Is
Well-
it something you create all by yourself? You go into your body and you say, okay, I'm going to DMT trip.
Well, there's
Like, how do you?
first of all, every time you go to sleep, your brain produces more DMT to what activates your pineal gland. So that's where all your dreams come from.
Right.
The reason you can't remember a lot of your dreams when you come out of it is because your pineal gland's calcified from the fluoride that they put in water and other things. So you start to wean yourself off of that, you'll start to remember more of your dreams. And you can actually extract the chemical out of plants, and there's a plant in South America that's called ayahuasca. And that's what we're talking about, going to South America and doing an ayahuasca journey. Now, what they do with the leaves is they create it into like a tea. So when you drink it, it actually affects you for 6 to 8 hours. You're like on a shaman's journey. You're in a dreamscape. Which you've had an experience of it. Did you have trouble deciphering the difference of reality of what's actually going on in this vibration and what was actually going around, or were you like laying down the whole time?
I was sitting on the floor in kind of a reclining chair, so to speak, and I was definitely in kind of a dream state reality, similar to any experiences I've had with mushrooms and psilocybin. So definitely a different kind of reality, but I wasn't so far gone as to completely lose touch with the fact that I was sitting on a floor. You know.
So you needed more tea.
Sounds like it.
More tea, please.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, where do you get the tea?
Well, you're like here in America, DMT happens to be a class 1 drug. It's like
Illegal.
it's worse than cocaine. Yeah, and
Of course it is, because it awakens
it
people.
awakens
Naturally,
people.
it's
Exactly.
uh
So you can get it here in America, but you pretty much have to get it, and it's made in a powder form. And when it's made into a powder form, you actually smoke it, and the effect only lasts you say about 6 to 7 minutes. And I'm talking about my first experience going into it. It was like it
Did
always
you smoke it or did you drink it?
smoked it.
Okay.
So, and it
Hearing
always, yeah, all my experiences have been that way, not through ayahuasca, which I want to, because that's going to be like a 6 to 8 hour journey, and you'll actually retain more of the information that comes through. Because this is what I experienced on my first time going into it, and it always starts off this way. I'm like in a room, and it's got sacred geometrical patterns in the room, and all the walls are connected, and there's beings in front of me, but they look like the floor and the walls. And they had this being that had pointed arms, and it was moving around me like this.
Wow.
And I always heard these noises, wah, 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 like these vibrations.
Right.
And I just felt this feeling of love over me. At that point is when I broke through. And they say you'll hear like a crash, like a breaking of glass. And that's when you go through your pineal gland. And when I was actually going through that, I was like going down a hall. And I was seeing all these things flash past me, which looked like to me past lives of all the experiences that I've had on this planet. And so imagine seeing that within a matter of a couple of seconds. And then I bursted into the other side. I don't remember too much from that.
And this was the 6-minute smoking deal.
This was the 6-minute smoking.
Okay.
After I burst through that, and you'll retain some of it. That's why they say to record it or write it down when you come out of it, because it's like waking up from a dream.
Right.
And you notice like it,
Yeah.
you know the
Oh, there you
dream,
go.
and then you start talking about it, and you're all like, okay, what happened?
Right.
The difference with doing DMT is you'll have so much information come in, you'll come out of it, and you'll be like, wow, I was like, holy shit, like, wow. Yeah, I mean, you can't even like put your words together because you're still trying to, process everything that you went through. The thing is, when I did come out of it the first time, I had an overwhelming, not overwhelming, because I welcomed all of it, a feeling of love that was unconditional, that was truly, it encompassed everything. And there was no feeling like I ever had like that. And you'll get that every time you go in.
And utter acceptance and part of it, of belonging and like death.
Yeah, I've done it. I've done it 3
Have you done it?
times.
And
Gas
is it the same
form.
or similar?
It was-
Ayahuasca, and then a year and a half
Okay.
ago,
Visual experience.
smoke. So
Yeah,
I've done it
it's-
3 times, and yeah.
Well, how do you mean gas form? What's that?
5-MeO-DMT.
That I had already.
It's
just being able to see.
like
Yeah.
basically you have
Well,
yours
and it's
like
taken
a
me,
marijuana
what,
vaporizer
Uh-huh.
volcano in a bag,
25
basically
years later.
sucked it in.
A lot
Okay,
of-
so it was like kind
So
of like a
not,
vapor.
not smoking it, but yeah, like
But
a
it,
vaporizer.
so it was a clear, yeah.
pretty much.
What's
yeah.
real, what is
Was that better than the like the smoking experience of it?
It was,
It's
it was-
cleaner.
It was less harsh on my
Less
lungs.
harsh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've noticed that it can taste very harsh.
A lot of shit spinning
Yeah.
out on why.
But yeah,
This to me, why is an illusion,
pretty-
it just puts us in a tailspin and we achieve absolute zero. It is what it is regardless of why. So let's deal with what it is versus why it is. Because why it is will distract us from what it is in the first place, and we can't even, exist in what it is, while we're spinning out on why it is.
It's just accepting it for what it is.
Right, but it took me years to get to that place. I bet you gotta take me in there. Hook me up with a guy.
A guy who knows a
You
guy
know a guy.
who might know a guy where to
He
get
knows
it.
a guy. He knows all the guys. Yeah, I'm cool.
It's like everything's coming
Old
out.
people don't watch the internet.
It's time. It's time.
What does the cops do? Well, the cops are.
And they're people too.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of the cops.
Matter of fact, there's a lot of people that are in the police departments, that are in the military, that are actually working to shift everything,
Right.
to bring us back to the Constitution. Because we've been infiltrated.
And there are also those that are feared by fool, or fooled by fear. Feared by fool?
Fooled by fear.
Yeah, fooled by fear.
Yeah, like what they say, they don't even know a lot of this.
Right.
So, that's what it is. Whenever you just come up to any one of them or whatever, just treat them like another human being and
Yeah,
and
I'm
share
surprised
information.
sometimes.
Yep, I've always every interaction I've had with a police officer have communicated with respect and honesty, and there's been
Well, we just got out of a ticket, a few weeks ago. We made a U-turn at a light that didn't have a no U-turn sign on it, so.
Yeah, you didn't know.
If it doesn't say
U-turn
no,
allowed.
then you're allowed.
No,
Has
No.
always been the way, but now, no,
Not true.
evidently
no.
not.
It says it has to say
It
U-turn
has
allowed.
to say U-turn allowed in order for you to be able to do it, where it used to.
at a signalized intersection, that's correct.
Right, didn't used to be that way. Well, and on the East Coast, it's definitely not that
It's
way.
always been that way.
If it doesn't say you're not allowed, then you're definitely allowed.
Not at a signalized intersection.
Well, you were just
Right.
you were just looking into a different time limit, time zone, and you saw that it's okay to U-turn.
Right, so we did. And we immediately got popped, immediately got pulled over, and we just talked to the guy,
Mhm.
human to human.
You're
And
lucky-
he goes, okay, well, I'll just give you a warning.
You're lucky you got a human.
Right, yeah, well, it could have been worse, we could have been shot. It happens all the time, pull you over and shoot you. Okay,
What's funny is we had the exact same experience maybe about 6 months ago. I did a U-turn, flashing lights, got pulled over. And just talked to the guy, and he
yeah.
was a nice enough guy. Let us go.
Yeah, he goes, well, you can't make a U-turn at that intersection, and I leaned down and I went, well, I drive, so when can you make a U-turn, just so I know.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna keep this on broadcasting, but we're gonna stop the recording. So if you want to catch any of everything we've talked about at another time, feel free to.